Hey guys, welcome to day 5 of Keto Together. I hope that you're enjoying the meals and that even though some of these may not be recipes you can do exactly, hopefully you're able to create your own recipes. I've really enjoyed looking at the hashtag Keto Together and seeing the creative things that you've come up with. And it really does feel nice to feel like we're going through keto together over these difficult days. Okay, so it's casserole day. And I love casseroles because they're that one pot wonder where you put everything together. And I literally went through the kitchen and said, what do I have? So I had some smoked turkey, and it was a smoked turkey breast actually, and this is all we had left. So that's probably not going to be enough protein just for my family. I also got inspired by some frozen spinach that was in the freezer. So I decided, and I'd found the sun-dried tomatoes when I was kind of doing the inventory of my pantry. So spinach, sun-dried tomatoes, smoked turkey, and I started thinking, let's do kind of a Tuscan theme. And so I started going through the cabinets to see what I had. Now with the casserole, what you want to do generally is some kind of meat or protein, a veggie or two, and then the flavor. I like to use cooked meats in casseroles because they're faster that way. Everything's cooked. You just want to throw it in there, let it get all warm and let the juices mingle, let everything talk to each other, and just has a fantastic flavor, and dinner's ready in 20 to 30 minutes. I also like to use canned meat. So if you have canned chicken breasts, this is a great thing to make for that. And I'm going to be 100% honest. I've not made this before. You're going to see kind of behind the scenes how recipes get created. It's what I have, what sounds good, what I want to use up. And so that's what this recipe is going to be. You'll have to check with me later to see if the family would actually eat it. I also went through the vegetables besides the frozen spinach, and I had a cabbage, and I had to chop off the brown bits. This cabbage is you can see how it's kind of flopping. It's been in quarantine a long time. So I chopped up a little bit of it though, because cabbage is really fantastic for kind of a noodle substitute. So I decided I was going to start my casserole by layering it into the dish. And so you can see, by the way, I've cut these pretty thin. See that's not a big, it's kind of like a noodle. And it's wilted, but it's kind of like a noodle. I want it fairly thin because remember, most things are going to be cooked, and I don't want this to have to spend a long time before that one's actually big. I'm going to leave him out. I don't want to take a long time for the cabbage noodles to cook through. I want them to be fairly thinly sliced, and notice I'm separating them and just making a layer in the bottom of my dish. Now I didn't have a lot of meat, so I'm making this in just a 9x9 dish. And I'll separate this out. And again, any of the thicker pieces I'll take out. I can chop those up and put them in, but I'm going to take those out. So this is, I'm going to think of almost like a noodle layer in the bottom of my casserole dish. And yeah, that's pretty well distributed. Those are some of the bigger pieces. I can tear that guy. And I can tear this guy. So anyway, I'm just going to put a layer, and you don't have to do that, but I had cabbage. I wanted to use it, and I thought, this lasagna texture will be fantastic for that. And then I'm going to put my turkey in. Now, I don't have a lot of turkey. I haven't measured it, but it may not even be 2 cups. So truly, this would only give enough protein probably for me and David, or if David was eating it by himself. I like using up the smoked turkey because honestly, we all really enjoyed it when he made it, and then it kind of sat in the fridge and got totally ignored. And so when you can make casseroles or soups, that's a nice way to kind of breathe new life into it. Now, I could supplement this turkey with the canned chicken. I could just weave that in. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to add bacon. Now, before somebody tells me bacon is not a Tuscan flavor, I'm just going to go ahead and say, I don't care. Turkey, bacon, a creamy sauce. It's going to be delicious. What's wrong with bacon? Unless you don't eat pork, just let's do this. Put this in here. I think this would also be good with pork, by the way, if that's what you're down to. And I also think that this could be a really nice casserole made without meat and then served with some seafood. I don't know if your seafood would hold up to the longer cooking time. Now that wasn't quite enough bacon. And bacon also adds fat, so let's not forget that. I'm not just adding protein. And I'm using chopped bacon. These are not like bacon bits. This is real pre-cooked bacon. This is a shortcut in my kitchen just about all the stinking time because we're so busy. Okay, so I put bacon in there. And I've got celery, but that didn't speak to me. I didn't think that would work so well, but definitely the spinach. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the spinach in with the sauce. Let me do the tomatoes real quick. I think the tomatoes deserve to go in by themselves. And these are sun-dried tomatoes in oil. And I'm putting some in here, and then after I get them in there, I'm not doing a ton. That maybe is 3 tablespoons, maybe, because they can be quite high carb because it's so concentrated, and it doesn't take a ton to give you flavor. I have to get my hands in there, sorry guys. And any of the really big pieces, I'll kind of separate out. And again, maybe not the kind of Tuscan flavor you're used to, but we're cooking from our pantry. So if you were doing this, if you didn't have the cabbage noodles, you could skip it. If you didn't have the sun-dried tomatoes, you can skip those. You could add maybe some fresh tomatoes. It's going to add more moisture to the dish, so keep that in mind for your bake time, and the sauce may not be as thick and creamy. Now I'm going to make a creamy sauce, and if you are dairy-free, I'd promise some dairy-free options. If you're dairy-free, instead of the fresh tomatoes, use a 15-ounce can of diced tomatoes and skip the dairy part that I'm going to put in. But feel free to add the spinach, right? And yours, with the dairy-free folks, yours is just going to simmer in that lusciousness. Now, what I would add if you're dairy-free, I still would add the mayonnaise if you tolerate eggs. I know eggs are not dairy, but I'm just saying some people don't do dairy, don't do eggs. Okay, what am I doing next? Let's make the creamy sauce that goes over this, and we'll put the spinach. So I'm starting with cream cheese. Literally, this was what was left in the fridge from something else I had done. It's maybe 2.5, maybe 3 ounces of cream cheese. I like to use cream cheese in casseroles because, again, it makes them thick. Okay, and I'm just kind of creaming that up a little bit. It's been sitting at room temp a while, but I didn't heat it. To that, I'm going to add mayonnaise. If you look at most of my casseroles, they either have mayonnaise or sour cream. This is about 1/3 cup. Again, I really kind of eyeballed it. I want just enough sauce to cover what's in my dish, my casserole dish. And I'm adding some cream. I've measured about 1/2 cup, but I may have to put more. I may have to add more cream. I'll holler for David if I do. And I'm just going to mix now. You'll see the mayonnaise and the cream cheese together. So easy. And I'm just kind of pressing it down to blend it a little bit. And it's even easier to blend once we add the spinach. So let me put the spinach in. David squeezed all the moisture. This is frozen spinach that we cooked in the microwave, and he squeezed it so it's like in a tight little ball. I don't think I've ever added such dry spinach. It's wonderful. I'm very grateful for him doing that. So let me pass that off, and I'll mix it in with the mayonnaise and the cream cheese. And the spinach is just warm enough. It'll help to melt that cream cheese a little bit. It's not terribly warm, just a little. And you can see how that's really coming together. Hopefully you can see how that's starting to come together. Let's add our seasonings in here. And I wanted to keep this really simple because I love the flavors of the spinach. I love the flavors of the bacon and the smoked turkey, so I don't want to hide that. I don't want to do too much to cover that up. I thought I would add some garlic salt and honestly maybe some pepper, and that's it. We're not going to make this fancy. I'm using the garlic salt. I don't usually use garlic salt. I usually use just my garlic and then add salt. But I want to use this out of my pantry. This is a great time to get rid of some seasonings. My pantry is crazy overstocked with seasonings. And some I just don't even use. So I'm trying to use some of those things up as we go through our 10 days of cooking keto. So I'm mixing that in, and I'm going to put a little twist of pepper. David likes the idea of me using up the pantry, especially the seasonings, because it takes up an entire drawer in the kitchen. Okay, little pepper. And I'm going to add some minced onion. If you don't have fresh onion, minced onion is a great thing to keep on hand. If you have fresh onion, use it. But I'm going to use about 1 tablespoon, and I do have a measure. Okay. And you can use 2 tablespoons if you want, but I'm going to actually a little more than 1, maybe not even 1.5. of the dried minced onion. It just gives such a great flavor. And then I'm going to add in my cream. So we'll see how far that's going to go. Okay. And you could use broth if you wanted to. If you're doing dairy-free though, just use your can of diced tomatoes over this. It's going to be fine. And of course, put your spinach, just layer your spinach in there. Dump your can of diced tomatoes, put your garlic, same seasonings. You're just not going to use this. And you know, the mayonnaise, I could see it going either way. You could put a couple tablespoons of mayonnaise with the tomato to make it a bit creamier, but it's totally up to you. Okay, that looks great, y'all. It's almost like a creamed spinach we're putting on there. Until we do this. We're gonna add some Gouda cheese. This is some grated Gouda cheese, and this is some pork rinds that have been smushed up. You can skip the pork rinds, but it gives a little more protein and a little bit of texture. And how much did I put? I don't know. This is why I have such a hard time with recipes, because I make stuff. I'm gonna say I put about 1/3 of a cup. It may have been closer to a half, but between 1/3 and 1/2 cup of pork rinds that have been powdered. Some of you buy the panko. I just like to use as mine gets stale, if the dogs don't get them, I like to put them in the blender. All right, let's add the cheese. This is about 6 ounces of cheese of the Gouda. I'm not gonna put all of it in at once. I'm gonna save some back to sprinkle over the top. And so you'll see what we've mixed together here. And I'll have all this on the website if you really want to know what I did. I'll also have a review of it with thumbs up or thumbs down, because I'm totally making this up as we go along. And I'm going to add a little more cream. That was about a 1/2 cup. I will measure. I'll measure a 1/4 cup, because it's not quite as creamy as I'd like, because I do want this to like seep down into those other layers. So let's get all that off of the I usually don't do that in front of company, but I was trying to get all that off the spatula without getting my fingers in there. So you guys aren't company, right? Okay. And the last thing I'm gonna do, and I can't explain it, but it just feels like the right thing to do, is I'm gonna add lemon juice to this and lemon zest. I also had one in the fridge that I wanna use up, and it's gonna get saggy on me. So it's already a little saggy. I'm not sure I can zest it. I'm going to use the zester to add a little bit of lemon. I just think this will be really tasty. The lemon with the smoked turkey. I think it will be luscious. Okay. And I'll keep going. I'm going to hurry as fast as I can, so you guys don't have to sit here while I'm zesting a lemon. But ideally, I would zest the entire lemon. And there are no carbs in this. Tons of flavor, but not the carbs. And look at what I'm doing, guys, when I'm zesting. I'm not getting just to the white, barely to the white, and I stop and move to a new location. If you get that white, it's bitter, and you don't want that. Okay, and rotate him around just a little bit. I'm gonna hurry. But this is gonna give it a really, really nice flavor. You know, if you didn't have the spinach, you could toss in some artichokes. If you had canned artichokes, that would be great. If you have asparagus I think would be super tasty in this. I would layer it in. You could use some fresh spinach if you had that. And there are lots of things you could do. If you don't have the cabbage, you could use some cauliflower perhaps. And again, the frozen vegetables, or if you have canned vegetables, will work too. Okay, now let me chop this guy in half. I'm always chopping the guys, aren't I? Everything's a guy, have you noticed? And I love this little guy. Speaking of guys, I found this fella at Dollar Tree. And what I love about it, I have different zesters. What I love about this one is that it catches the seeds, obviously, and which is perfect, but it has a little measure there. And so you can know like more exactly how much you added, which I think is fantastic. And if you don't have a fresh lemon, you know, skip the zest part and just use lemon juice. And I'm going to tell you in a minute, I'm going to use the juice from 1 lemon, what I think. I don't want to put too much. Okay. That yielded, wow, 1/8 of a cup, so 2 tablespoons. That's about right. Let me do this guy. And I just, yeah, love fresh lemon. So how can we go wrong with that? So let's recap what we've done. We've got cabbage in there, and honestly, it may be a cup and a half of the shredded cabbage. If we were weighing it, I'm guessing it's no more than 2 ounces at the most. And we cut that cabbage really thin. I've got maybe 2 cups of the chopped smoked turkey that's in there. See how great this is? Then I put in bacon, and I put a good ½ cup of chopped bacon, and then about 3 tablespoons of sun-dried tomato. And this is going to be, gosh, a ¼ cup, which is perfect, of our lemon juice. And you can reduce it again if you're concerned about the carbs. This is going to have a great lemon flavor. So cabbage leaves, smoked turkey, which you could use chicken. You just want to use whatever the protein is, make sure it's cooked. I honestly think that even ground beef would be tasty in this because it's really about the texture. Chicken doesn't have a ton of flavor anyway, does it? And then in this bowl, I had about 2½ ounces of cream cheese. I added to that in total about 3/4 of a cup of heavy cream, about 1/3 of a cup of mayonnaise. Then I added about 5 or 6 ounces of shredded Gouda cheese, and I added about 1/3 cup of the pork rinds. Let's put this over top. And remember that fat from the mayonnaise and the cream cheese and the heavy cream is all going to kind of melt when it gets into the oven. What are you thinking, David? Is this going to be something you might like to eat?
We'll see.
David says, we'll see. I don't know. He probably saw too much. Usually when I create stuff like this, he's not in the kitchen. He's out roaming about, puttering in the garage or in the basement or something. He doesn't like it when I say putter, but usually he's not there. And so he's watching now. Again, this would be great with artichokes, I think. I didn't want to get too many carbs between the sun-dried tomatoes and the artichokes, so I kept it at a limit. I'm scraping all the good out. Okay. And remember, everything in here is cooked except for that raw cabbage, and that's at the bottom. We're going to put the oven's on 350, or hopefully it's on 350. It will be soon. If you don't want to cook it right now, you can just put it together. This is one of those things that you can put in the fridge overnight and have it the next day. And look, I've just covered all that up. Yummy, yummy, as my friend Jill would say. If you wanted to add a little more protein and make sure it was a little more solid, you could put a beaten egg in there. You don't need to. And certainly if you're doing the non-dairy tomato-based one, you're not going to want to do that. I'm going to clean that up a little bit. Actually, I'm going to taste it. That's pretty good. It's very lemony. And this is why David, when he sits down at the table, nearly every night, well, if it's something new, he'll say, "What's in this?" Sometimes that's a good thing, as in, "Oh, I like this, what's in this?" Sometimes it's, "I can't detect what's objectionable to me, but there's something objectionable." But this is how I create new recipes. So I wonder what you're going to make from your pantry. Again, I could just as easily have done this chicken, done the same recipe with generally the same ingredients, omitting the cream and adding in a can of chopped diced tomatoes. I think that would be perfect. I could have gone a different direction and done the Southwestern flavors, some chipotle, some tomatoes and chilies like we did with a crock pot. Lots of different things that you can do, and lots more ideas on my website for our day 5 of Keto Together, making casseroles. Cannot wait to see what you guys make when maybe you're going to make this with poultry or serve it with seafood or add pork or beef, whatever you think. I can't wait to see what you guys come up with too. I hope that you're enjoying Keto Together as much as I am.